Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here, and of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Darian Smith. Darian, can you believe this is episode 100 of the Blazer Victory Podcast?
Oh, I did not know that. 100. I wasn't keeping up.
100. I can't believe we've done 100 episodes, these last couple years, dating back to my days with Steve. We just want to thank you guys. If you were listening to us right now, thank you so much for supporting the Blazer Victory Podcast, listening to us, subscribing to the show, sharing us with other UAB fans. We just, really just want to say thanks. I never thought, number one, we'd get to 100 episodes, but this quickly. But, man, it just seems surreal that we've already done 100 episodes of the Blazer Victory Podcast. And I hope we do, I hope we've got another 1,000 or so, to come in our future.
Right. I think that in that 100 episodes is important because it helps added attention onto the program with some good, thoughtful analysis. And hey, shouts out to you for your grind and work that you put in for more media coverage. There were so many UAB fans that wanted more media coverage. Just what can I do to listen and hear something of, UAB related? And I'm glad that you started this platform and allowed us to be able to really fill in a void, but not just fill it in just because it was a void, but to actually put some real content out there, some real thorough content. So shouts out to you, John. I tip my hat to you.
Hey, shout out to you, man. I appreciate you joining the show and helping me build this even more, going forward. Do we have any more last thoughts on Rice, or do we just want to put that to bed? Because, we did the instant reaction Saturday night. Not gonna lie, we've gotten a lot of feedback. It was a very fiery episode, and hey, I don't know about you, Darian, but I still stand by 100% what we said in that episode.
200%. What we say is what we mean. We're grown men, So we meant every word that we said. I hope that players and coaches were able to hear, because it's a challenge. It's what it is. It's a challenge, and it's I kind of feel like we are able to bridge the gap between fans and what we are feeling here to the program. And it's kind of like a direct line. So I hope they feel that we care.
Right.
And so that's the main thing. If it's any last thoughts, is I want them to know that we probably don't have as many fans as some of these P5 programs. I think we're still growing, but at the same time, we here at UAB, we care deeply.
Right.
We do. And when you perform like that, not the physical, not what you do physically. I'm talking about the silly, stupid stuff, the cheap shots and the taunting and the back holding, all of that stuff is kind of a represent. We know that the players care. They care more than anybody. We know that the coaches care. It's their livelihood. But when you put that out there on the field, it comes off as if you're not caring in the moment. You're caring about winning a what kind of battle was it? A tongue war. You're caring about just showing up your opponent. You got rattled, and we don't. That's not what we're for. You know what I'm saying? Care about winning first. Care about dominating your opponent. Then you can talk to them. Then you can let them know all you want to.
Mm-hmm.
But show us, the fans. I mean, because it was the fans that got this program back. It's the fans that come and support and show and give money and buy season tickets. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. That's the most important part of it all. So the fans help give players opportunities. The fans help give coaches opportunities to feed their families. It's entertainment at the end of the day. So we just we don't mind losing. We don't mind turnovers. That's part of the game, like interceptions, fumbles, whatever. But please, guys, don't ever put that out. What they put on the field Saturday against Rice, let's not repeat that again. If we win, lose, or draw, this fandom will be behind you guys.
Definitely. And hey,
But
we know the coaching staff, the players, they work their butts off all week, all year long, really, going back to fall, going back to spring practice. Like, we know they put the work in and, to get to, try to get to that Conference USA championship, which is the goal for this UAB program year in and year out, is to win a Conference USA championship game. But what we saw Saturday night, Darian, was not a Conference USA championship performance. And I think the coaching staff knows that. I think the players know that. And we're just going to try to turn that page again. That's what we said after
right,
the Liberty loss. And, hey, Liberty was a whole nother story. There were 4 turnovers. It was a monsoon, whatever, different things. But, yeah, definitely looking forward to turning the page again this Saturday, because we've got a really good Middle Tennessee team coming in Saturday to Protective Stadium. But if you guys somehow missed the Rice game recap, go back in your feed to episode 99, the episode right before here. Listen to it. It's only about 17, 18 minutes long. Get your frustrations out with us, and let's move on to Middle Tennessee. And speaking of Middle Tennessee, in a few minutes, we are going to roll our interview that we had with Sam Doughton, who's the staff writer for Middle Tennessee Athletics. Give him a follow on Twitter at SJ Doughton, and also check out his work on GoBlueRaiders.com. It was a fantastic interview. Can't wait for you guys to hear him talk a little bit about the Middle Tennessee program. But let's talk about this team. Middle Tennessee, this is a team that if you somehow slept through a couple weeks ago, they not only, it wasn't a fluky upset where they beat Miami. They just straight up
they won the game.
They did by 14 points. They looked like the better team the whole way through. Like, there was no doubt in that game. Like, sometimes when you see a quote unquote G5 team upset a quote unquote Power 5 team, whatever, like, sometimes it's some fluky stuff or whatever. No, Middle Tennessee straight up went to Miami Gardens in Hard Rock Stadium and just took it to them. And I mean, we're talking about 98-yard touchdown passes, 60-yard touchdown. I mean, just straight up just beat Miami down. But Middle Tennessee, they come into this game 3-2 overall. Their 3 wins are over, as I mentioned, Miami, Colorado State, and Tennessee State, FCS team. But they do have 2 losses, and that was last Friday night to the UTSA Roadrunners and week 1 against James Madison. Now, UAB has played Middle Tennessee 8 times, and the series is split 4-4. Both programs have won 4 games each. So, I mean, there's a lot on the line this Saturday afternoon in Protective Stadium between Middle Tennessee and UAB, and that game will be at 2:30 p.m. Central Time. We hope that everybody can make it out to Protective Stadium. It's homecoming. It's the Children's Harbor game. You get to wear those special uniforms with the patients' names on the backs of the jerseys. I always love seeing that. So definitely hope everybody listening can make it out to Protective Stadium this Saturday afternoon at 2:30. But if you can't, you can watch it with our old buddy Stadium. We seem to be on Stadium a lot this year. Yeah, hopefully we're done with this crap as we go into the AAC next year. But, yeah, you can watch us on Stadium if you can't make it out to Protective Stadium this Saturday. But, I mean, Darren, what are some more just general observations that you have with this Middle Tennessee team, just kind of watching film and what you've seen so far?
Yeah, the obvious standout is their quarterback, Chase Cunningham. Dual threat guy. He's put up big numbers all year, minus James Madison. He's put up numbers against every team. He makes good decisions. They have solid weapons out at receiver. I just think that, their offensive line is, if you want to look at a weakness on their offense, it's going to be their offensive line. And I think they try to make up for that. If you watch the UTSA game, you'll notice, especially in the beginning, a lot of quick passes. Like, UTSA had a good defensive line. They got after him.
Mm-hmm.
But they were getting the ball out in 2 seconds. They were getting it out. And I think that we have had experience with that. With the Rice team we just faced and with Georgia Southern, they were the same way. And then we have experience. We played against Caden Salter for Liberty. Mm-hmm. I'm at the point where our defense, I'm not worried
No, Reeves is
Not
gonna have
because
them ready. No, Reeves is gonna have them
because our
ready.
defense is 100%. We've been through a lot of dynamic players in different play styles. We face in Middle Tennessee is a like explosion style offense.
Mm-hmm.
They can strike big on you, but we faced that. We've performed well against that. We've performed well against ball control. We've done it all. Quick passing. We've done well against running. Whatever it is, David Reeves in his defense MVP. Like
Yes.
the game plan has always been phenomenal. They've always rotated well and gotten fresh players in when they're supposed to. Even when they've gotten the short end of the sticks in a lot of these games, they've come back and they've responded really, really well. So we have a good balanced team on defense, man. You can't ask for our defensive backfield, our linebackers, and our defensive line. Like I think our defense is the best in conference. So I think we will do a good job of containing Cunningham. I think we'll do a good job. I would like to see us get after him.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know we've been doing good, but I think we have the corners and safeties to hold up in coverage, and I think we need to get after him because it seemed to me from what I saw is the less time he has to throw, the less time he has to make these decisions, it's harder on him. But if you give him some time, he can pick you apart.
Mm-hmm.
If you give him enough time, so I would come after him. I would dictate the game, and I would make him make big plays. Now he was able to do that against Miami. you know,
Yeah.
they were able to do that against Miami, and that's cool. We're not Miami on defense. So that's how I see it. What you think, John?
100% agree with you, Darian. Like, so this offense, you said it best. They are an explosive big play offense. So UAB's defense is going to have to limit the big plays. They're going to give up some. It's just the nature of the beast with this kind of air raid type style offense that Stock still runs at Middle Tennessee. But you hit the nail on the head, Darren. Their weakness on that offense is their offensive line. And, I was talking with my buddy Jared Kalmus from the Alamo Dome Audible earlier this Monday morning. And, he does a great film study for his Patreon for Alamo Dome Audible. And he was telling me that he was very unimpressed with the Middle Tennessee offensive line. So what UTSA did is they only really put three guys up front on that defensive line for UTSA, and they were able to put pressure on him pretty much the whole game on Cunningham. So definitely, there's a lot of inexperience on that Middle Tennessee offensive line. Now, in our interview with Sam, he'll allude to that they have gotten a little better over the year, but I mean, honestly, I agree with Jared, and I agree with you, Darren. This is not a great offensive line, and really, our defensive line with Fish, with Fairbanks, with Forte, I mean, those and Kelly Sanders, those guys will need to put pressure on Cunningham and make him uncomfortable in the pocket. And as you were alluding to earlier, Cunningham does look for the deep ball a lot, but he can also hit you with his legs. He even showed on that UTSA game. He's not afraid, but even with a knee brace and all, he's not afraid to take off and scramble around to, get 10, 15 yards. So UAB will have to kind of spy and get ready, for that aspect as well. But most importantly on the defensive side of the ball is putting pressure on them and not giving up the explosive plays. Because when you look at that Miami game and, Colorado State game, they were a lot, especially the Miami game, they were able to hit explosive play after explosive play and just kind of put Miami, Miami blinked and they were down by 21, 24 points. So
Right.
this is an explosive air raid offense. But I think our defense is up to the challenge, man. We faced
Yes.
this. Hey, this might be the best offense we've faced, but we faced some pretty good offenses. Going back last week to Rice with, kind of ground and pound, multiple, but then you look at kind of an air raid-ish with Georgia Southern, or, well, not really air raid, but kind of just spread it around, chunk it, and Liberty, as you mentioned earlier, with Assaulter. So I think I agree with you. I'm 100% confident that Coach Reeves will have a game plan for slowing Cunningham down, and I am 100% in trust with our corners just kind of playing man coverage the whole game, if they need to, and just bring pressure on Cunningham. If our front three can't get to him, blitz Wilder or blitz Tyler Taylor, kind of put some pressure on him to force Cunningham into making some quick reads. And, you look at Cunningham's numbers, 120 for 176 passing attempts. He's thrown for 1,300 yards already, 8 touchdowns just through 5 games. I mean, this guy is good. And, he's probably going to be one of the best quarterbacks UAB faces this year. I think, Frank Harris at UTSA is a little better, but I mean, this guy's legit. And he's got a lot of weapons to throw the ball to. You look at Jalen Lane, the sophomore 5'8", 183 wide receiver, has 21 catches for 410 yards and a touchdown. You look at Lane's last game against UTSA, in that one game, last Friday night, had 10 catches for 179 yards. And you look at the Miami game, 4 catches for 130 yards. So
yes.
they've got some weapons on the outside.
They have some, big play ability,
Yes.
I think the reason why I would say that Liberty was more dynamic, because I believe it was the players that made them more dynamic. I still think that Demario Douglas is the best receiver that we face. And, and it's probably going to be the best receiver because he is just him as a player. I think now, don't get me wrong, Middle Tennessee got good players, those weapons, and that quarterback is special. But what I think is the more so a schematic thing that, that frees them up, because one thing that they do is they keep you honest with the run game. So if you look at Miami, I think it's going to be key to make them one-dimensional. So look at one big difference between James Madison. They played week 1. James Madison put it on them. Look at their rushing stats for that game. James Madison shut down. It was no running. You were not going to run the ball against them. So it forced everything to go through the air, even though this is a big play offense. Just like how we have to keep them honest passing the ball, and we have to hit our shots so we can create room, they have to do the same thing. It's just inverse. And so if we can shut down Frank Peasant and all these other guys that they like to get involved in the run game, and we make them one-dimensional to where we can just pull our ears back, and they're a fast-paced offense. We're kind of ball control. So let's say, I run down, it's first down for them, it's incomplete, sack on second down, third down, a 3-yard gain. If we can get quick 3 and outs on them, and then we get the ball and we do our thing where we methodically run, pass, probably run it when we wanted to pass, a couple times. And we do our methodic, move it down, and then we score. It puts a lot of pressure on big play offenses, because you have the ability to have that quick strike, but if you don't get it, you also have the ability to do a quick 3 and out, and right. You're giving the ball back to a team that'll wear you out, because I still think we are on par with UTSA was the best offensive line in conference when we don't freaking hold. So we can really lean on guys, and we can get them tired. And if they're getting quick 3 and outs, or they're getting off the field quick, just trying to be explosive, it can be very dangerous for them. So I'm excited about the clash of styles and the chess match that's going to occur. I'm wondering if David Reeves is going to really get up into the grill and challenge. Because one thing I would probably do against this team, I would attack that offensive line. I would blitz, and I would really, have our corners play man up, play aggressive on their receivers. Don't give them time. If you're gonna go over the top, you're gonna have to throw it quick. You're not gonna have time. We're gonna be on you, and so we can kind of make it predictable to where he doesn't sit back there. It's nah, we know where they're gonna go. And they're probably gonna try to fade right here because we're not gonna give you time to read. We're gonna be on you. But I think our corners, you can't do that with our corners, because if you give our corners a hint of what you're trying to do, or if we are dictating how you guys going to play offense, I think our corners are so good that we can cause turnovers. We can get after you, and we can hold up. So we'll see. I think I like our chances. I know they'll probably hit some big ones. We'll just have to stay calm, because that's what they do. They're good at it. So just stay
Right.
calm and stay disciplined and stick to the plan. And we've proved that we can do that all year. We stayed sound in every single game we've played. No matter what the offense did, we responded well, stayed sound, and stayed disciplined. It's really tough for teams to move the ball and score on us.
Well, Darren, kind of looking at the other side of the ball for the Middle Tennessee defense, where, their offensive line is kind of the weakness of the offense. The defensive line is pretty much the strength of this defense. Like, so they play a 4 down front, a 4-3 defense, very stout run defense, and they love to bring pressure on the opposing team. You look through 5 games, Middle Tennessee already has 19 sacks, and they're averaging 9 TFLs per game. 9 TFL. So our offensive line, Darren, is definitely going to be tested this Saturday. And honestly, man, looking at the last couple minutes, those holding calls during the Rice game, but those last couple plays in the game where they sacked Dillon 2 or 3 times in a row, we can't have that this Saturday, because the defensive line that UAB is facing this Saturday is a lot better than what they saw in Houston Saturday.
Yeah, so this is going to be the key. It's Children's Harbor. We play for a deeper meaning, and I'm expecting our guys to. I know they had challenges coming from everywhere, like in order, like the mental part of the game. Like you said, this should be the wake up call. I thought all the other games was the wake up call, but this is the most. Sometimes people, in order to take accountability, you have to remove any other things that they can point at and say, no, it was this fault. It was this game was really like, hey, no, this was your fault. Like the mirror, it was forced for the mirror to be up in their face to say, no, you have to lock in on the details, on the little things. It just has to matter enough to you. We know we can beat these teams. So it's really about what we do and how we execute. I feel like that we haven't been sharp at all when it comes to executing plays. We always do something to put ourselves back. If we can execute, just if a player is pulling away from you and you're blocking him, let him go.
Let him go. Don't take. That's what I'm saying. Like, so people were frustrated with these holding calls. I went back and watched a few of them. They were holding. So, like when you're beat and somebody's just beating you, let them go. Don't tug on the shoulder pad and try to pull them up. Because when you do that, and the back judge sees it, he's going to throw that flag immediately, because it's obvious you're holding. Right.
Let him go, man. It's such a simple thing. Let him go. And it scares me because we run that outside zone a lot.
So much, I know.
And it requires you to run your feet. Like you got to bring your feet with you. And dog, just run your feet. If they're pulling away from you, and just run your feet. Let them go and stick close by them, and maybe the running back cut back. And guess what? You're right there to wall them off when they cut back. The last thing you want to do is hold them. And this drives me crazy, because I look back at it. I think my whole UAB career, I didn't have one penalty. Like, I didn't have a holding or nothing like that. I didn't have any cheap shots, because it mattered enough. Like, I played the game in my head. Like, I knew what I wanted to do. And if a player was getting away from me, even if you Olay a block and the guy just run past you, man, just say, hey, watch out or something. But just like, come on, like, because those holding, especially in our style of offense, they are drive killers. They are drive killers every time. So if the offense, I really think it's about what we do, because while their defensive line is pretty good, especially against the pass, I think, and they're pretty stout against the run too. But I think we'll be able to, open some lanes up on them, and we'll get our run game going. That's what we do. But I actually think this is a good opportunity to get some passing game going, especially if we have a balanced attack. James Madison had a really balanced attack. If you look at the teams that beat them,
UTSA did too, yeah.
Yeah, they had a real good. UTSA kind of came. A lot of their yardage came from their quarterback.
Well, yeah, true.
Yeah, like Frank Harris was just special. He was running, throwing it all on him, and he was doing whatever he wanted to be honest. But he really exposed their defensive backfield is not good. I'm gonna just be real. Like they're the anti our defensive backfield. Now the D line is good, but I think that's why I think it's important to get that run game going. So now we can slow them down with play action. Like we just slow them down some when we get hats on hats, and we can dictate if we are able to dictate how we want to play offensively and defensively, we will be good. It just has to matter enough to them. That's all. It's about what
Exactly.
we do. It's about what we do, and I'm not sure what we do. I'm not sure at this point because we've been brain farting all year.
Mm-hmm.
If we do what we are capable of doing, if we play smart, if we throw the ball away in obvious situations, if we don't commit stupid penalties, if we just are sound, if we execute, man, if we execute, we can win this game by double digits. It can be a great win. If we don't execute, we can get our butts beat.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just that simple. Like it's at that time, and I think our defense will do what they do best, and they'll probably keep Middle Tennessee in the 20s, and they'll do. Is our offense? Are they going to be sound? Are they going to be disciplined? Are we going to take the plays that's given to us? That's all I want to see. Like, even if let's say they beat us physically, I wouldn't. Hey, I'll be upset, but I wouldn't be frustrated. They beat us. They're the better team. They were better than Miami that day.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, will we give ourselves a chance to at least once? Let's give ourselves a chance to see who's actually the better team at football. And I know mental is part of the game, but man, I want to see just mano a mano. Who's the better team? Both teams are executing at a high level. Who's the better player? Let's finally. I don't want to deal with frustrating penalties, and if we do that, I feel like we just give ourselves a great chance, John.
Yeah, well said. Well, what's your official prediction, Darian?
This one is tough, man, because it's just the brain farts that we've been doing. It's
Well, let me before you give your score prediction, let me ask you this: in your opinion, Darian, is this a must-win game for UAB?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good. I agree, 100%.
It's homecoming, Children's Harbor. We're 2-2, and we probably just came off the most frustrating game that we've had in years.
And you cannot fall to 0-2 and see USA play. If you fall to 0-2, you're pretty much. I mean, I guess there still is a path to get there to the championship game, but you make it pretty much non-existent if you go to 0-2.
Right. I think you just make it way too hard on yourself. So this is it. Like if we were playing poker or something, this is the all in call. This is, hey, we got our chips all in. One thing I noticed about I saw Brian Harsin say the same thing, but it becomes when we have one of those stupid losses like that, like we just had, a lot of the talk is like, we got to move forward and we got to learn. We got to move forward. We got to keep pressing. But at some point, that's not going to be the calling card. It's like, oh, we move forward. We move forward. At some point, no, that's your identity. That is who you are as a team. You're a team that mentally, the team doesn't care enough to execute on smaller details.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see, like, if it's any game to see, if we win this game, we're going to have to execute on those small details. We're going to have to care enough. And then this is the forward. There's no more forward. Like, yeah, of course it'll be the rest of the season, but if we're talking about like the expectations we wanted to meet and all the things that we were saying beforehand that we wanted to accomplish, well, this is it. We need this one. And we need, not only do we need this one, we need to show the way and how we win it. If we win it, we need to show that we care and that we pay attention to the details, man. So you give me your score prediction.
Man, okay. So I'll be completely honest. Before I started film study, I came in, Monday afternoon watching film and just thinking, man, before I watched film, I said UAB's. I don't know. That Rice game was so tough. The loss was so tough. I don't know if they can bounce back. But after watching film and kind of studying, I really do think UAB can. I kind of agree with you. Kind of win this game by double digits. So I've got the official score for my prediction is UAB 38, Middle Tennessee 28. I know Middle is going to hit some explosive plays, but the key on defense is going to be limiting those explosive plays. Don't give up 5 or 6 explosive plays. You can give up 1 or 2, but if you give up 5 or 6 like Miami did, then you're going to be in for a hurt, or a world full of hurt. Because I mean this Middle Tennessee offense is explosive. I'm excited to see the UAB offensive line versus the Middle Tennessee defensive line. I hope that our offensive line is up to the challenge, but I definitely can't wait to see what happens in the trenches there. But yeah, just play smart on defense. Don't give up many explosive plays. Get Debo going early. I'm excited to see what they do with Dylan Hopkins in the passing game, because they are definitely going to have to get that involved, because you'll hear in a few minutes, but with our interview with Sam, when Middle Tennessee faces kind of a one-dimensional offense, like if you show that you can only be one-dimensional, Middle Tennessee does a great job at stopping that one thing that you do well. So UAB is definitely going to have to come out and just get that passing game going. But definitely looking forward to seeing UAB's offensive line and how it stacks up against that front four for Middle Tennessee. Darian, what's your official prediction?
Okay. I'll go UAB 35, Middle Tennessee 24.
Nice.
And I'm going to say that that's the score because our offense actually cares. Like the players on the team, we've had some heart-to-hearts. We've had some look in the mirror moments.
Hey, it's gut check time, baby.
It is gut check time. Like all of that talking, cease it. All of that moving forward. Hey, we're forward. Like, this is a movie where you do the time skip. We've time skipped to the point where it's gut check time. It's all the marbles on the table right now. Like we pushed them all in, and we need to figure, mostly because we need to figure something out about our identity. We're physical, we're tough. Are we smart, and do we care enough? Basically, we need to figure that. Is that part of our identity, or are we going to keep being this? And that's kind of, honestly, it's been kind of embedded in our culture. If you go back a couple of years, we've blown a couple of games, important games, because of boneheaded plays, like just being over aggressive. Like, during the Garrett Marino times, he played very physical. He was very physical, but he would do some stuff. He's like, stop killing us, please. And that's kind of been in our culture. I love the aggressive play. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, the means doesn't justify the ends, And I would like to say that our coaching staff, where those players love Brian Vincent.
They do.
The team loves Brian Vincent, and so I want them to care enough for him. I want them to care enough about the program to say, hey, I need to take it upon me to execute, to care about these small details. And make sure I just don't get flagged.
Please.
Like, don't make a 1-yard gain into a 10-yard loss by getting flagged, So I would say they step up to the call, they meet that challenge. Defense does what they do, and they limit them 24 points. Dylan is able to throw 2 or 3 touchdowns because I just don't like their cornerbacks. And I think we showed some pop and that's the thing. It kind of overlooks that. I was getting excited about, hey man, we got something going in the passing game against Rice. But the whole game overlooked that. So I think Dylan showed some pop there. I think we get, Trey Schropp catches 1 or 2. I think, Ryan Davis or Tajon Palmer gets 1 or 2. And I think it's our passing game that leads us to the win.
I love it. Well, all right, guys. Well, we will go ahead and roll our interview that we had with Sam Doughton. Again, follow him on Twitter, SJ Doughton, and check out his work at goblueraiders.com. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Blazer Victory podcast, where we are pleased to be joined by Middle Tennessee staff writer Sam Doughton. Sam, thank you so much just for taking some time with us this Monday evening just to talk some Middle Tennessee Blue Raider football.
Well, John, Darian, thanks so much for having me on. Y'all do a great job around here. I've been listening in off and on throughout the season as we've been going through things, but really excited to talk about how the Blue Raiders have done so far and get into the game a little bit before we head down there.
Perfect. Well, guys, if you are not following Sam on Twitter, definitely go ahead and give him a follow at SJ Doughton on Twitter, and also check out his great work at goblueraiders.com. And you might, in a few days, might get to see my name pop up on one of those articles. So fingers crossed. But Sam, so let's talk a little bit about Middle Tennessee. So, Rick Stockstill, I swear, is it 15 or 16 years that he's been there now?
17. This is his 17th season.
17.
Add one more.
Man, I was going to say, he has been there a long time. And I know from the outside, sometimes he does get a little, a little grief. But honestly, he has built a consistent program there with Middle Tennessee. What's the fan base's overall morale with Rick Stockstill? And I don't want to answer that question for you, but it's got to be good after they beat Miami, right?
It's certainly better than it was after week one. I'll grant you that. After the blowout loss to James Madison, which I think frustrated a lot of people, but the Miami win, and particularly how the team looked in the Miami win, where it wasn't a real fluky win at all. It was a really just sort of a dominant performance against the team that, at least on paper, had a big talent advantage compared to where Middle was. I think that renewed some faith in the progress here of where the program is. Now, obviously, after playing UTSA this past week, there's some more people wanting to take more of a wait and see approach with this season, see how Middle stacks up against the rest of the conference. But right now, at least it looks like they can be pretty competitive for a conference title this year, which is something that's eluded Rick ever since he's joined at Middle. And so I think that's something that's a team goal, and that's something I think certainly fans are hoping for at this point. But 17 years at Middle, there's going to be some people that I think are just bored, for lack of a better term, with it. From my perspective, I think there's a lot of things at the G5 level that are unrated about that sort of stability. I mean,
Right.
You don't see that stability a lot of places in general, but when you see it, particularly the G5 level, it's very rarely seen. But when you have that type of longevity, there's certain things about the program that just sort of are run automatically that you're not having to reset all the time. And it's worked out well for Middle, which is at times a place that needs to up its facility game a little bit, which the university is certainly working on, and has helped Rick maintain, as you said, a pretty successful program. A consistent winner as far as getting to bowls. The vast majority of the years he's been here.
Okay,
Definitely.
pretty cool. I know you brought up the James Madison game. What do you attest to such contrasting games between James Madison and Miami?
Well, number one, I think James Madison's probably a better team than Miami. First off, James Madison is they come in with a huge culture of winning. They won a lot at the FCS level. And as somebody who grew up in North Carolina and saw App State make that transition, when I was getting ready to go to college, that culture of winning is hard to stop, even when you're supposedly moving up to the next level and, getting to play against better teams more consistently than they were doing in the Colonial Athletic. And James Madison so far, beating App on the road, they took out Texas State pretty easily this past weekend, has shown themselves to already be one of the better G5 programs in the country right off the rip. And so I think James Madison did a lot of things really well that game and showed that they were already ready for that transition. On top of that, from what I've heard from the coaches and players, is that James Madison underwent some schematic changes in the offseason. They brought in a new quarterback who's much more of a dual threat quarterback than their previous quarterbacks were, and that caused them to run a lot of different offensive looks that the team just didn't see on film before. And so that certainly caught them off guard. Now, obviously, at some point you just got to make the plays and not let that be an excuse. But I think week one, those types of things can happen, and I think that probably accounts for a disparity. If the two teams were to play right now, I'd probably still lean James Madison just because of the talent that they've showed, not just in the game against Middle, but in the three other games. But I think it'd be a lot closer because there'd be more stuff on tape, and Scott Schaefer and Mitch Stewart would be able to game scheme a little bit better than they were entering that week.
Definitely. And Sam, not, I didn't catch a lot of the James Madison film, but when you look at the box score, at least for that game, and you look at, I watched the UTSA game last Friday night, it seems that both of those teams were able to run the ball against Middle Tennessee's defense. Now, in contrast, when you look at the Colorado State game, you look at the Miami game, neither one of those teams could run the ball at all on Middle. So is it as simple as saying, like, hey, if UAB can get that ground game going and established against this Middle team, does that favor UAB's chances on beating Middle Tennessee this Saturday? Is it as simple as that, or
it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but you're pretty close, I think, to the recipe for handling Middle Tennessee's defense, because they are a much better run stopping team than a pass stopping team. So if you can neutralize that one strength, that obviously helps you a lot, because the passing group, the secondary, is still sort of gelling together. They've got some guys in some new spots, had a lot of turnover there this past off season, and they're getting better every game. But there's still just some growth that needs to be had in that part of the team. But run stopping, mostly because of a defensive line that's really veteran experience and has really good gap discipline, has been great for the most part throughout the season. I think that the nuance that might be missing when you look at the between those box scores is that both James Madison and UTSA featured dual threat quarterbacks, and they got a lot of running production out of both of those guys in both of those games. Now, obviously, that opens up the running game even more, the more traditional running game with the running back, and the numbers were good for both of their guys there. But UTSA got a lot of their run production, particularly early, from Frank Harris, more so than the actual running backs they had on staff. And it wasn't really until the fourth quarter, when the Middle defense had been out there most of the game, where they started to get some more success running the ball. And James Madison obviously ran the ball almost the entire second half when they were up as much as they did. So there's a little more nuance there. I'd say dual threat quarterbacks are the thing that Middle's had a little bit tougher time with than traditional run games, because Miami had a really good running performance against Texas A&M the week before, and Middle pretty much shut that down the entire game down there. So I think if you just have if your running game is totally built around the running back, I feel like Middle's got a pretty good shot to at least slow that down a significant amount. But if you have a really good running back mixed in with a quarterback that can make something happen with their legs, that's when things start to get a little dicey on the run defense side.
Okay.
Gotcha. And that's, hey, Darian, that's something we've, talked about, how we're going to need to get Dylan going and get that pass game going to kind of open up that run game more.
Right. We really need balance, especially going against a talented Middle Tennessee team that, when I watch film, the guy that really, really pops out to me is the quarterback, Chase Cunningham. What can you tell UAB fans what to expect from him?
Chase is a total gamer at the running back position. He started in the Middle program as a walk-on and eventually earned a scholarship through his years with the team. And he, it's not a ton of size. I think he might be listed at 5'11", which is pretty close, but I think some people might consider a little generous depending on who you ask. But he's tremendous accuracy on those short range passes. Excuse me. Tremendous accuracy on those short range passes, which helps open up a lot of things that the team wants to do in the air raid offense. And as you guys saw against Miami, one area for improvement for him, particularly this offseason, has been his deep ball accuracy. That's jumped up so much from when he left last year with a knee injury against Southern Miss that knocked him out for the rest of the year. He came back in camp, and that deep ball is better than I've ever seen it from him. So he now has the ability, with the speed that Middle has at wideout, to take the top off of defenses that aren't prepared for it, but also has that short accuracy game to dink and dunk and open up some looks for the rest of the offense as well. But mostly, I'm just impressed with how stoic he is. He never gets too high or low, no matter what's going on in the game. And he's faced a lot of pressure from a pretty young offensive line this year, and has handled it really, really well. And I know the team really rallies around him because of that.
And Sam, that was going to be where I was going next. This O-line for Middle, they've already given up 11 sacks so far this year. It does seem at times that Chase is kind of scrambling for his life back there. But do you see improvement from game 1 to, what is this, game 5, 6 now, like throughout the year? Or
yes, no, absolutely. Part of that is, I think James Madison certainly has a claim for the best defensive line that Middle's faced so far. UTSA was probably pretty close, but I might give the edge to the Dukes overall. And that's where a lot of the offensive problems were happening up in the Shenandoah Valley, was the fact that the Chase didn't really have any time to process anything or make any reads. He was getting pressure constantly. And UTSA did a nice job of not, even when they weren't getting sacks, just getting pressure, which I know is something that Rick Stockstill highlighted was a strength of the UAB defensive line unit in his press conference today. Is even when they aren't getting sacks, they're usually helping collapse the pocket, which is a really big deal. And it's a young group, but they've certainly improved game to game. I think they had a really great game against Miami in particular. I think they did a lot of things well. And, credit to Mitch Stewart, because I think he's changed some things schematically where he's helping those guys have some more success doing things like quick cut blocks, before quick passing plays and other things like that to guarantee that Chase is going to have enough time to make the decision on certain plays where they know where the ball's going.
Yes, looking at film, I was impressed by schematically how the offensive coordinator was able to scheme up plays to where the offensive line didn't have to hold up blocks too long. And Chase did a good job of getting the ball out quick. If it wasn't there, he was out of there. So I like you guys' offense. I like how you guys I like the passing game, and I like the trust in Chase. Defensively, I think defensively is a little different for you guys. What do you think is the strength of the defense?
Oh, it's got to be the defensive line. The linebackers have made a lot of really good growth this year, particularly from game 1 to game 2. I thought they probably the biggest jump I've ever seen one unit make between multiple weeks. But the defensive line runs about 8 deep. I think they've got over 200 games of collegiate experience between the guys on the 2 deep right now. And that shows on the field. Obviously Jordan Ferguson, who's the all-conference defensive end, clear defensive player of the year candidate. He gets a lot of attention over on the right side of the defensive line. But throughout the game, you're going to see multiple guys getting TFLs. Like, I mean, we had 9 sacks against Colorado State, which was, and from all over the place, linebackers and all sorts of defensive linemen. I mean, the guy who led the team in sacks that game, Quindarius Dunnigan, had not recorded a sack in a collegiate game before that game, and he had 2.5 that day. So that just sort of shows you the type of depth they have. They're a real veteran group, and that's usually one area that Middle's traditionally recruited pretty well too. They usually have pretty good size for this level and pretty good strength. And so I think that's going to cause problems for just about every team on their schedule. I mean, Frank Harris does a really good job of evading the rush, and I think he was sacked 3 times against Middle last week, which shows you, sort of the strength that Middle's defensive line has, even when they're facing an offense that counters them pretty well.
All right, Sam, now I'm looking at my notes. I just want to make sure that I have this correct before Darian and I record our preview. Is that correct that this defense has 19 sacks through 5 games? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I believe they are. They're definitely first in the conference. I'm not sure. I think they're top 10 nationally in sacks. But they get after the quarterback, and part of that's schematics. If you look at the film, Scott Schaefer blitzes a lot as the defensive coordinator, and obviously sometimes that just gets home. But it's a lot of that also just comes from the strength of that defensive line group and how they're it's really hard to block all 4 of them all game unless you're in a lot of max protect. That's generally where teams have had success passing the ball. If you watch Colorado State, when they were able to make a little bit of the run in the second half, they were mostly keeping 7 guys in to block and only sending 3 wideouts and just hoping that somebody could get open with enough time downfield.
Yes, I was wondering, are you guys young in the defensive backfield?
We are pretty young.
Okay.
Reed Blankenship was a all-conference safety for years here at Middle. He graduated this past year. He's currently on the Eagles 53-man roster. And they also there were some key transfers in that group too. Quincy Riley was the team's number 1 cornerback last year. Would have been a junior this year. Now he's at Louisville. A returning senior, Greg Great, decided to transfer away. He's now playing safety at Jackson State under Deion Sanders. So they've had a lot of turnover there. Teldrick Ross was a guy that was starting at the opposite corner, at number 2 corner most of the last season. He's now playing free safety. And so they're having to shuffle some guys around. One guy that they're really excited about is DeCorian Patterson, who had 2 interceptions against Frank Harris last week. Real gutsy player, basically played through a shoulder injury in that game and was able to come back in and make something happen. They're a totally different team when DeCorian's on the field. He's really developed into a real gamer at cornerback that I think is going to be a big player for at least the next couple seasons.
All right, so Sam, flipping back over to the offensive side of the ball, the reason why Cunningham looks so good the way he does is that he has so many lethal options to throw the ball to. I missed Stockstill's presser this morning, but did he address Chisholm if he'll be able to be back for the UAB game? Because I know he had to sit out the UTSA game.
Yeah, Rick's not one to really talk about injuries in those public settings for the most part, to the point where I've stopped asking in press conferences because I know what the answer is going to be.
Right.
But he, from my understanding from DJ, is that DJ's working back to it. I'm not quite sure what the issue was. I think he has some sort of lingering injury that just sort of flares up every now and then. So he's definitely day to day. But obviously the offense looks way different when he's out there as another speed threat opposite Jalen Lane. Compared to what it is when Jalen's, the real speedster with experience on the team. There's a couple other guys that have some pretty good speed, Elijah Metcalf, AJ Toney, but DJ and Jalen have the experience to go with that speed that's made them pretty dynamic at this point in the season. And then on top of that, you have Isaiah Gafings, who's a 6'4" slot receiver that's by far like I call him, a unicorn, a dinosaur, whatever you want to call it, just a really unique archetype to have in an offense, and sort of plays almost like a quasi tight end role as far as how he's using a passing attack, where it's a lot of check downs or finding space in zones for short gains across the field.
Gotcha. And guys, for UAB fans listening, the reason why I asked about Chisholm is that, this was a guy that he just had 2 catches against Miami, but those 2 catches were 2 touchdowns and they were 169 yards. So 2 catches for 169 yards. That is just bizarre to think about.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, no, he went mega viral after that Miami game because he was the one on the other end of the 98-yard touchdown that put middle up 3 scores. And honestly, really great play from him. You should watch the release on the replay of that he has, because he does a really good job of generating space behind KJ Ivey before Ivey even realizes what's happening. And that's a lot. Some of that's on Ivey for not anticipating that was something that middle might do, but most of it's on DJ making a really good play at the line and getting open quickly. And that's that killer speed he has. If you let him get behind him, I don't think anybody's catching him anywhere in college football.
One thing that I think is a tone setter, and I think that we should probably, in a roundabout way, we should focus on defense, is that I think that when you guys get Peasant going, number 36 to running back, it's a certain feel that you guys have on offense. It's like I was so impressed when I was watching live when I saw you guys close out Miami basically, and he was such a dog, just running downhill, and he's not flashy looking. It was no armbands, nothing like that. It was just straight running the ball, number 36. And to me, as a former offensive lineman, when a guy is running the ball like that, he's getting physical and he's closing out the game, I think that sets a tone and sets an identity. I believe it's important. It may be such a small detail, but to me, and you can see if you agree with me or not, but to me, I think it's important to shut that aspect down for us to give ourselves a better chance.
Oh, no question the team is much better when Frank's going. And, I think you said it perfectly. I think his best trait as a running back is that he's somebody that can turn a 2-yard gain into a 5-yard one just off of sheer force of will. Just powering through tackles. You might be able to hold on to him, but you're not going to be able to get him down unless you get 2 or 3 more guys over there to get him down. And that helps him out a ton whenever he's doing things. And he has good speed if you get him in space. He had an 85-yard run earlier this year. So he's got the game-breaking ability as well. But they run him a lot between the tackles as sort of a change-up to the air raid thing. And when they get people out of the box spread out in that air raid, Frank can gash them. And if that happens, it becomes a really tough balance to find for opposing defenses. And I think one reason that middle struggled, particularly early against UTSA, was that Frank never really got going in that particular game. And I think that's going to be a key point of emphasis this week in practice, is to try to find ways for him and maybe it's Darius Bracey, who had a pretty nice game last week, to get involved in the running game.
All right. Well, Sam, I told you 15 minutes before, and here we are going on 20 minutes, but this has been just a great interview. I swear this is the last question, but with UAB transitioning to the AAC, barring us, meeting each other again in the conference championship, it seems that this will be the last time that UAB will play Middle Tennessee, at least as conference mates. But what do you gather from the Middle Tennessee fan base and department heading into a brand new Conference USA next year? Is there excitement there that, I mean, this might be, obviously they're still focused on this year and, trying to get to the championship this year and also other sports. But what do you gather is like the overall morale of the fan base heading into a new Conference USA next year?
Well, I think before getting into that, I do want to say that the UAB has always been a school that I know Middle has enjoyed playing. Obviously, Western is the closest school to us and is the one that traditionally they've been in conferences with almost their entire history. So there's a lot of history and rivalry there. But UAB has been a school that's been a great opponent in a lot of different sports across a lot of different teams and all, Olympics, basketball, football, that the Middle's been able to measure themselves up against. And I know for me personally, I'm going to regret losing that when y'all leave. But as far as Middle in Conference USA 4.0 or whatever we're calling the new 19 league next year, I think there's a lot of optimism for where Middle can shuffle out there. They've announced a lot of capital projects, sort of like y'all did a couple of years ago. They're building a new $68 million student athlete performance center, which is pretty much going to serve as the football base of operations in addition to housing, the weight room for everybody, the training facilities, stuff like that, attached to Floyd Stadium. And that's going to really, I think, transform the whole athletic complex side of campus. So there's a lot of excitement about that. And quite frankly, I think there's a lot of excitement about Middle's competitiveness in a lot of sports. I think there's a real opportunity where Western Kentucky and Liberty are going to be pretty much the only two schools that right now are having a lot of success in football when, the AAC 6 depart. And that's going to open an opportunity for Middle to make some growth in that areas. Basketball is going to remain tough. And, obviously I'm really excited for the Middle UAB games, particularly on the men's side this year.
Yes.
In basketball. I think that's
especially after that overtime thriller in the tournament.
It's going to continue to be a really good rivalry, at least for two more matchups and probably a third, if we're being honest, in the conference tournament. But, I think there's some optimism that Middle, particularly on the women's side, is going to have a lot of success in the new look Conference USA basketball wise. And that Conference USA, I think, is going to be a better basketball league when you get some of the teams that are leaving that, historically have not put out great products year in and year out. Obviously, UAB is not one of those, particularly of late. But there's a few other schools at the bottom that just they're kind of there. And I think the new CUSA, when we're adding New Mexico State, who's a really good team, Jackson State's had a lot of success at their level, and then Liberty, that's a really strong mid-major basketball conference that I think could push for a two-bid league in certain years, depending on how everybody sorts out. And so that's what's got me really excited. I'm a basketball guy first and foremost, just because I'm from North Carolina. That's sort of where I cut my teeth. But I think Middle as a whole, as an athletic department, is optimistic about their future and thinks that the new CUSA gives them an opportunity to make a statement. And then if there's more opportunity for realignment in the future, hopefully Middle's right there with a little bit better resume than they had in the last cycle, which sort of caught Middle at a bad time just because of the more recent success, particularly in men's basketball and football, they've been experiencing up until last year.
Definitely. And I hope going forward that UAB's athletic department decides to, keep something going with Middle Tennessee, football and basketball, and also Western Kentucky. I feel like of all the schools that, we're kind of leaving, to go to the AAC, I am going to miss playing Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky the most, not only because they're good programs, but because it's such an easy drive, just up I-65, to get to both of those schools. And I mean, you mentioned it, both programs, whether it's basketball or football, we've had great games against one another. So I definitely hope somebody is listening and schedules something down the road for sure.
Well, yeah, for me personally, I'm not on the travel roster for most football games just because, I write and, you need your photo and video folks actually at the games. It's hard for them to do their job unless they're there. But
Right.
But when I took the job here at Middle, I was told that the two road games I get to go to are UAB and Western, so usually we play one of those on the road every single year and, get to go down there for the first time this weekend. And I'm really excited for it. And I'm pretty sad it's going to be the last time for me as well, at least unless something changes in the near future. But excited to see you all down there. Excited to watch what's going to be a really good Conference USA matchup that I think, already at this point in the season's got, big championship implications. I think whoever comes out of this game, the loser is going to be facing a real uphill road the rest of the way while the other gets to stay in that conversation So stakes really couldn't be higher for, the 5th game for UAB and the 6th game for Middle Tennessee at this point in the season for sure.
Definitely agree. Nobody wants to start the season 0-2 in conference play. That it doesn't eliminate you, but it almost kind of does, or at least it feels like it does, going 0-2 to start Conference USA play.
No question.
But Sam, thanks again for coming on the Blazer Victory podcast. We appreciate you, UAB fans, guys. If you are not following Sam on Twitter, definitely go ahead and give him a follow at SJ Doughton, and also check out his work on GoBlueRaiders.com. Darian and I will be back to recap the Middle Tennessee game Saturday night. Darian, you want to go ahead and close us out, buddy?
Blazer Nation, time to move forward. Excited about Saturday. Let's ride.